let's keep going with the organization of space. Now we're going to be talking about circulation. Circulation is so important because you're not just building a form, you're not building a shape, you're not just building spaces, but also you're creating spaces that are going to be movable by the people that inhabit. So what are they going to go through in order to get to their spaces? How far do they have to travel? What are the things that they're going to see as they move? What do we, do we want people to move through some places, or we just want to keep them away from one place to another? So this idea of movement is huge. As we keep going with architecture and you start doing circulation analysis. Again, trying to analyze what is the best circulation for your building. So circulation is huge. And so we're going to be talking about 6 different ones, which are here. But hopefully you realize that the names sound very, very similar. We have linear, which we talked about linear. We talked about radial. Spiral, we haven't talked about grid. And we've mentioned it as well, network and composite. So hopefully you start realizing that a lot of these are sort of overlapping or combining with different terms that we've talked before. So the first one we're going to talk about is linear path. So this is a temple. And so usually when we talk about temples, one of the things is that they have this sense of movement. So here you see that most likely this is the movement that's happening, or the ideal movement. And so when it comes to religious buildings, most of the time they really want to guide you through a journey, or take you to this experience, this spiritual experience. So and most of the time they're also guiding you from what is more not sacred to the most sacred place. So usually it's this journey that they're trying to guide you like this. And so that's why they're not opening doors to the sacred place, because there is a process to this building. So you have to go from, sort of this cleansing process. And so that's why linear organization works really well here. Another example is we talked about the classroom. So we see this huge hallway right at the middle. And then we have linear organization of the buildings, which we talked of the rooms, of the classrooms, but we have this one main sort of linear movement. So why do you think we do that? Or why do you think schools are designed like that? Again, one of the reasons could be, someone can stand here, and as they're looking at them, they can really start seeing. They can see, the people walking in the hallway. So if you had a hallway like this, it would provide a lot more spaces for students to hide, or skip class or something. So this sort of just, helps students, keep security afloat. So linear organization is pretty simple, but also pretty used a lot of the time. It's probably one of the most common, but it depends on the context. Another one is radial. We talked about radial, which is very similar to our building, but again, it's all flowing from one, and they always have to sort of come back. So this idea of the movement comes from here, and this becomes linear, as you can see, but the fact that makes it's linear, radial is a combination of linear and radial all coming together. This one is called the gridded path. And it's not really architecture. This is more urban planning or urban design. So this is a view of a city. But I wanted to explain it this way, because a grid is basically this. It's creating a lot of different spaces, and then the voids become movement. And this way, these voids are the streets that we drive around every day. This is how we move from one place to another. So this sort of grid is sort of creating the openings in the middle that creates the spaces. So we would see, we would have a space here, then a space here, then a space here, and it's say a library, and also another space here, another space, bookshelf, and this becomes the sort of the movement. So hopefully this changes the way you see the city, or how you drive around the city. So now let's keep going with. Another one that's very interesting, not too common, but it's fun if you do it well. It's a spiral path. And one good example is the Guggenheim and Museum in New York City. And here, you see this museum from the inside, and you see how it's just spiraling up. So there's a museum that's sort of everything. This is the main circulation, but every time you get to a floor, you do get into this sort of linear organization as you go into different rooms. But if I remember visiting this in New York, and the only reason I wanted to, but again, I travel sometimes with family, and in this case, no one in my family wanted to go inside again because they didn't want to pay. The only reason my mom went with me was because she saw it in a movie, and she was like, "Oh, this is a building from the movie. Oh, okay, I'll go see it." So that's the reason why she was okay with seeing this. But yeah, this is an amazing space that you can feel like everything is sort of connected because it's open atrium, but the main circulation is done through this main spiral. So, as I mentioned, it's done in movies. So here you see this is a movie called The International. It was an action-based movie, and all of this was CGI or via like special effects. They had to create their own Guggenheim, basically. So it's sort of interesting to see. And I haven't seen the movie actually. I just heard about it, so I don't know if it's a good movie or not. The movie is Men in Black, 1997, and you see the Guggenheim sort of picture there, and you can see why it would be pictured there because it kind of looks like almost like a spaceship even. There's actually a movie called I forgot. It's with Jim Carrey, which I have a clip here. It's called Mr. Poppers, I think. I'm blanking out on the names. But let's see this clip, and hopefully it helps you understand a bit more of the of the spiral qualities. Let's see if it works. Okay. Yeah, it's called Mr. Popper. I don't think you can hear the audio, but you see these penguins, how they're, just sort of walking around. And I think there's going to be a moment with the penguins actually just sliding down. So you see there's this water, and so since this is spiral, it can just slide down. Like this is a huge slide. This is like very expensive art probably. And you see how everything's connected to this main sort of lobby. And so that's the Guggenheim being in the movies. I haven't seen this movie either. I don't know what's it about, honestly. But yes, you can see that this idea of the circulation is just like a big, huge slide, and it could be done very good if it's done well. The network path is, if you think about network, internet, or if you think about this idea of, like when we think about network, the social network is things that are interconnected. So it becomes sort of radio, becomes linear, it becomes a combination of different ones that we've seen, but they're all sort of connected. So basically the big idea is, it's also sort of like city layouts. You see how these are connected through this. So this might be sort of radio. This could be a common space. This is more linear. This is again a little bit more radio. This is more linear, guiding them. So it's all of these different ideas sort of happening in one place, which is very similar to composite. So order has to do not simply with geometric irregularity, but it has to do with the condition of each part of a whole that is properly disposed with reference to other parts, and its purpose to produce a harmonious arrangement. So the big thing, if you get anything from this, lecture, is that order is not just about the shape or the idea or how does it look. It has to do a lot with the part as a whole. The whole design being how it's referencing to each other, how they're speaking to each other, and how it's creating this harmonious arrangement, how it's creating something that is really, really happening together. Um, so there is this a natural diversity and complexity in the program. So the program is always going to be complicated. So whenever you get an architect, whenever you get to design something, it's going to be complicated because the programs sometimes are not speaking to each other. If I'm giving you that example of a family, it's that brother and sister that are constantly fighting, and it's that person that wants more privacy versus someone that, wants to be alone in his room with loud music. So there's a very complex relationship between the spaces, between the program. But the forms of the spaces, you have to acknowledge that there is some hierarchy. So there's some that are more important than others or more relevant. So who are the users that are being served? Is this for the public? Is this for kids? Is this for older group of people? Is this for a family? So what is the users being served? The purpose or the meaning that they're trying to convert in this context that they address. So the big thing is that order without diversity can become boredom. So if you just simply say, okay, I'm just organization is just putting everything in one corner. I'm going to put all the rooms in one. I'm going to do this. I'm going to, it could be done and you are organizing, but without diversity, but that can be kind of boring. But if you create a very complicated space, very diverse, a lot of stuff going on, the spaces are going to be super complicated, and I want to do this, because I don't want to just be very normal or boring. It could be super chaotic. You can go to a building and it's happened. Then you go to a building and you feel lost, you feel confused, you feel like the spaces are interesting, but you just completely feel confused and lost. So a sense of unity with variety is the ideal. So a sense that everything, all of your building is communicating in this one living organism that is, but also there's variety, there's exploring of spaces is the ideal. So it sounds hard and it sounds easy, but it's a really fun thing to do. I'll talk about this last ideas, and we'll be ending with part 3. So the last thing that will help you also as you organize space is axis. So this is a line that establishes by 2 points in space, which forms spaces that can be arranged in a symmetrical or balanced manner. So I'm going to combine axis and symmetry. And so axis is simply 2 points that are being connected. So this is something that you see a lot in Roman times, and even now it's a very common thing. And so an axis is just a line, and it's sort of, just creating a sort of a sense of how this building is being organized. So axis is huge. I'm going to be asking you, and hopefully for the rest of your life, you can, when you see a plan, you see the axis happening. So this is Salk Institute by Louis Kahn. This was given to this man invented the vaccine for polio, and they gave him this land, the city of California. They gave him this land in California, and he hired Louis Kahn, and he said, I want to create this amazing place that even Picasso will come, that wants to come and see this building. And Louis Kahn did an amazing job. You can see that he created the axis. So this is this line that is sort of guiding this organization line that is sort of telling you where the center is. And not only does it become the central, but it's also creating this sort of idea of symmetry. You see that whatever's on this axis is creating this 2 spaces that now are symmetrical or identical, sort of creating this mirror. So people usually don't include the axis in the design. This is something that you don't usually do. But what's amazing about this one is that Louis Kahn actually, included this water feature that is saying, this is my center of this my design. So that's why this building is very easy to see the axis, but usually you don't really see it incorporated in the design. And so usually the axis is what's going to give you your symmetry. Let me give you other examples to hopefully help you understand more. So again, you see this axis, and it can be reformed by the edges, and again it can create symmetry, and so there are two types of symmetry. So when we talk about symmetry, you have bilateral and radial symmetry. Bilateral is something like this, right at the middle, and it's a mirror reflection, so both of them are basically the same thing.